This is my degree. No, I'm joking, that wasn't really my degree. I just like ripped up a random bit of paper because if that was my degree, my mum would have killed me. Anyway, in this video, I'm going to talk about whether I think film school is worth it or not. I'm just basing this all off my own experiences. So again, this is subjective. It's not objective. You know, someone might watch this and beg to differ, and that's okay. You know, we've all got different experiences and opinions. So spoiler alert, if you want the short version, no, I don't think film school is worth it. The barrier to entry is very low, and we're in a time now where everything's digital. So, you know, you can literally buy a camera off eBay secondhand for a couple £100, watch a tutorial online or read a bunch of articles, and you can actually get out there and make a film. Heck, you don't even need a camera. You can start making movies on your phone, you know. It's not like, you know, you're going to university to become a doctor. You know, it's not like the olden days, like George Lucas times and Steven Spielberg times, where the only way to get into the film industry was through film school, you know. Yeah, like, you know, the knowledge is so accessible today, and it's all about connections. You know, it's about who you know rather than what you know. And people will say, yeah, actually film school, you can make connections, but actually you can go to film school and you can actually not go to film school and make those connections as well. You know, there's plenty of networking events, especially online now. You know, we live in a digital age, like you can do almost anything online. And that's kind of something I will talk about in my experiences later on in the video. Anyway, that's a short answer, so let's get into the long video. I'm going to try not to edit this video too much. I'm just going to let my thoughts flow as they come. So if I make mistakes, I'm probably not going to cut too many of them out. I'm just going to keep them in there. So, you know, everything's kind of, what you see is what you get. It's just whatever. So a bit of back history, a bit of a backstory on myself. I finished secondary school in 2013. I did an apprenticeship in IT from 2014 to 2015. During this time, I wasn't really sure if IT was for me. I was then made redundant after I finished my apprenticeship, and I was unemployed for 3 months. And I was really stressing out at this point, thinking, do I really want to stay in IT? You know, maybe I've picked the wrong field. I found another job towards the end of 2015. It was another IT job, and I was there for about 6 months till about May 2016. During this time, you know, I hated this job. I was literally depressed, and in a way, I'm actually glad I had that job, because one, it allowed me to kind of save up a ton of money, and two, it gave me nothing but time on my hands, and it really gave me time to kind of think about what I wanted to do with my life, you know, what kind of field I wanted to work in, what my goals were, what my aspirations were. And it, you know, at the time, like, people would be happy to have a job where they do absolutely nothing, but for me, it was driving me insane. You know, I wanted to do something, and, you know, do something actually, like, you know, worthwhile and fulfill my passions. And that's when I realized, actually, no, like, filmmaking is my passion. Because since I've been a kid, I've loved watching movies, you know, and there's like a certain excitement that comes inside me when I see like on-set photos of a film being made or the behind the scenes. Like, I absolutely love it. And that's when I figured, actually, do you know what? I want to go back into education, and I kind of want to work in the film industry. So I applied for a course at a college local to me. The course was called Interactive Media, but they renamed it to Creative Media. There was about 19 modules in that course. It covered a ton of stuff, like film editing, sound engineering, script writing, camera operating, photography, graphic design, animation, huge sort of stuff, loads and loads of stuff. But most of it was kind of film focused. Yeah, loved the course. Best 2 years of my life. Enjoyed it so much, met my best friends there. And I think that kind of just kept fueling the passion and that fire inside me more. So in my spare time, I was watching a bunch of tutorials, you know, from like Peter McKinnon, D for Darius, Film Riot, DSLR Guide, Indie Mogul, like you name it, I've probably watched them all. I was reading a ton of articles online, a lot of blogs from other filmmakers. And the most important thing was I was actually making films myself. And I didn't have no fancy camera. I started off with my old phone, which is a Samsung Galaxy S4. And I had a selfie stick to use as a tripod. That, you know what? You will learn so much just by picking up a phone or whatever, a camera, whatever it is, and just start making a film. Because you learn from experience, and you're gonna make mistakes. Trust me, you'll make plenty of mistakes. But mistakes are a good thing, because that's how we kind of learn and progress. Yeah, best 2 years of my life. I graduated with triple distinction stars, so that's the equivalent of 3 A stars, top of the class. And then I was applying to uni at the end of my second year of college, and this is where things started to get a bit, ugh. So I did my UCAS applications. I got a couple of responses back. I got unconditional offer from London's South Bank University. And initially I had accepted it. And then as I was doing my finances for, the next 3 years, thinking, okay, how am I going to like plan out my travel and do this? And I did the maths, and I'm realizing even if I had a part-time job working 20 hours a week, there's no way I could afford the train fares, into London and back every day. And that kind of made me panic. And I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So there was a tutor at my college. He used to actually work for UCAS and used to process foreign student applications. And I asked him, can I use a maintenance loan to fund my travel fares to university? And he goes, no. At the time, I didn't know any better, so I took his word for it. And there's me just kind of shitting myself thinking, oh, fuck, how am I going to get to uni? So I actually ended up rejecting that offer, and I went through clearing, and I applied at Brunel University London. In hindsight, I've learned my lesson, so always do your research yourself, and yes, your maintenance loan can be used for travel. That's literally what it's designed for. So yeah, I applied at Brunel. I remember calling up the head of the course. The course was film production BA. And I called him up and I was like, hey, on a percentage, I asked him all the questions I had. And then I said to him, if you was to put a percentage, how much of it is practical and how much of it is theory? And he said it's 60% practical, 40% theory. And I thought, okay, it's not the worst, it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. That's acceptable, it's over 50% that is practical. I'm happy with that. Plus, it's a lot closer to where I live and it's a lot cheaper to get to. And with a part-time job, it's fine, I can do the travel. So I ended up going to Brunel, and spoiler alert, I hated it. Yeah, first year came and I understand like students, are at different levels. Some people know more, some people know less. So I was kind of a bit forgiving on that. But honestly, like I was kind of surprised that first year that they were still teaching us how to kind of use a camera. Like I thought, I'm going to university now. I expected this to kind of be higher and more advanced, I didn't think we'd be still learning how to expose your footage or how to expose for an image. But anyway, I let it slide. I was like, do you know what? It's, people are at different levels. Okay, it's just first year. First year doesn't count anyway. So, first year came and went, whatever. Wasn't too happy with the course. The amount of, they said it was 60% practical, but it really wasn't. It was like, we had a practical once a week on a Monday afternoon for about an hour. The rest of the week was just theory, seminars, lectures. And on that point, I hate the university timetables because it's a 5-day week and we were only in university for 4 days of the week. And for all those 4 days of the week, I think I probably spent about 3 hours maybe actually learning and studying and participating on the course. That was like a 1-hour lecture and a 2-hour seminar or something like that. What a waste of time. Like I've paid over 9 grand and I'm getting like 3 hours a day for 4 days a week. Like, is that it? Like, I would have expected more for my money, That's number one. Like, I hate that. I felt like I was just wasting my time and my money. Second year came, and second year was no better. In fact, I think it was worse than first year. I just hated the content of the course. It's like, we were studying how different I don't even know the word. It was under the topic of representation, and that is such a huge topic, right? Looking at how certain stereotypes are portrayed, on screen, how different ethnicities are portrayed. And that's such an important thing in today's media. Yet, instead of looking at something so fascinating like that, we're looking at how dolphins were portrayed in cinema. I was like, who the fuck cares about dolphins? Like, I want to study, how different ethnicities are portrayed and how these stereotypes are created. How can that be a good thing? How can it be a bad thing? There's such a, it's such a fascinating topic. Like, it relates to the real world so much, and essentially how kind of people view certain ethnicities. It kind of all comes down to how we consume media. You know, how we perceive someone to be good or bad. You know, it's like if you're going to constantly portray a certain ethnicity as bad, how do you think the uneducated people watching that are going to perceive that? You know, whereas if you portray them as good, how do you think they will then perceive that? You know, it's so fascinating. That's the kind of stuff I wanted to study. But instead, no, let's look at fucking dolphins, you know, stupid. Anyway, I digress. I got to the point in year 2, I kind of stopped attending my lectures and my seminars. And basically, I had a part-time job at this point. So I kind of took on more hours in my part-time job. And in my spare time, I was watching a bunch of tutorials, reading a bunch of stuff, and I was making a fuck ton of movies. I think, honestly, that kind of really helped me progress my knowledge in this field. But on the downside of that, my grades kind of took a hit because I wasn't attending anything, and I was leaving my essays to the last minute. So like I started doing them like the night before. So, you know, I'd smash out a whole essay in 5 hours, and you could tell I'd done it in 5 hours. Like it wasn't great. Like I barely just scraped through. But at the time I didn't really care. I think even now I don't have any regrets. And yeah, and then COVID happened. So we were all in lockdown. Year 2 ended, we had the summer break, and then year 3, all of year 3 for me was in lockdown. And all our lessons were online, and I absolutely loved it. You know, it's like I didn't have to attend half my lectures because my lecturers wouldn't know if I was attending or not. The ones I did attend, if it was useful, cool, I would, you know, I'd actually attend it or whatever. But if it wasn't useful, I'd kind of either just switch it off, or, you know, if they had done a register, I would stay online, and on the side I'd just be playing Assassin's Creed Syndicate. But yeah, I think overall I loved third year a lot more because it was online. I didn't have that stress of constantly like, oh no, you know, like, yeah, I've got to participate in this. Yeah, I just didn't have that stress. And I think that at that point in year 3, we had a new teacher. Her name was Frances. I don't think she ever saw me because it was all online. I didn't have my webcam on. I saw her, but she didn't see me. Like, she was absolutely the best, you know. It's like, yeah. She was amazing. She gave me like first in all my modules I had with her, and because of that, I got first in all my modules in third year, but I barely scraped a 2-2 in all my modules in my second year. I almost failed my second year. Like I was literally 1%. I think 50% was the mark. I literally just about scraped to 51. So, you know, almost failing first, it kind of leveled out, and I ended up graduating uni with a 2-1. But honestly, even with third year, we had no access to the library resources. They didn't have all the books online. We were told that we wouldn't have access to this, this, and this. And then we kind of complained to the university saying we're paying this much money, we don't have access to any resources. Half the tutors are just pre-recording their lectures and not actually being there online with us. You know, and then there was the matter of our dissertation as well, because we were told actually you're going to be graded on a physical film. And now suddenly we were asked to just make a film with footage we see online. Like, it was horrible. That was my experience of university. But I think, to sum it all up, you know, back in the day, you know, when film was kind of a hard industry to get into, you know, the only way you can get into that industry was going to film school. You would have access, you know, to film cameras, to film stock, you know, to, you know, whatever it was, whatever equipment you needed, that's where you would go to, you know, to actually make films, you know. Nowadays, you know, we live in a modern era, everything's digital. Like, you can buy a camera for a couple £100 off eBay, you know, you could use your phone to make films, you know, you can just download DaVinci Resolve for free, which is industry standard, and start editing and color grading and everything, right? The barrier to entry is so low, you know, and you don't need film school to kind of start making films and learning to make films. You can do it all yourself online, especially if you've got the passion for it. And that was my experience. Everything I had learned was everything in college and everything I'd learned online, and physically making films and making mistakes and learning from my mistakes. And till this day, I think uni didn't even teach me 5% of what I know. Most of what I know, I think 80% of it is self-taught. That other 20% is what I learned in college. College kind of taught me the foundations. So people might actually say, oh no, you need to go to film school so you can build those connections, you know, it might help you later on in life. Okay, that is a valid point, but I don't think that's the only way, you know? I mean, I'm 5 years since graduating, I'm 5 years out of uni, it's 5 years since I've graduated, and I've made one of my best friends at uni, but I don't think I've still had an opportunity come up yet because of uni. Just for reference, I am self-employed now. I should mention that. I am self-employed. I've got my own business in photography and filmmaking and videos. And I've had some quite high-profile clients. So for any Sikhs and Asians out there, you might know the channel of Nam. So I work heavily with them. I run their social media channels. I film some of their events. I edit all their long-form videos. I make some of their shorts as well. I worked with a celebrity trainer, Matt Roberts. My work has been featured on Sky Sports. I've worked with Roald Dahl's Marvelous Children's Charity, or Roald Dahl's Marvelous Children's Charity for Children, something like that. You can Google it. I've worked with them as well. You know, so yeah, it's not like, you know, the opportunities I had was exclusive what I got to uni. If anything, everything I've got is honestly, it sounds cliche, but it is through networking. It's who you know rather than what you know. And I think the only time it's worth going film school is if you're exclusively going to be working with film stock. And again, it can't be something like 8mm. I think it needs to be 16mm or above, which is also quite rare as it is. You know, it's a lot more expensive working with film now because you'd have to kind of buy it, which is expensive, then get it developed, shooting on it, and that comes with its own problems. So yeah, going to university for something like that, definitely worth it, you know. But other than that, like if you're going to be working, I mean, you can actually call up your university that you're looking to apply at, you know, or you can just check on their website. You can kind of see what equipment they've got. You know, my friends, they kind of did their research. They're like, okay, we're going to be using ARRI Alexas, you know. For my college, we were using, I think it was Sony FC5s, I can't remember off the top of my head, or was it FS5? I can't remember. It was something like that. It was all digital. And honestly, like, if there's anything I would recommend to whoever's watching this on whether they should go to film school or not, my opinion is if you want to go into higher education, pick a degree that has transferable skills and isn't actually related to film. So for example, if you want to be a scriptwriter, instead of doing script writing for your degree, maybe you do English literature, right? Someone like me, I'm self-employed. I've got my own clients with videos and photography. So for me, I think in hindsight, if I was to stick to higher education, I would maybe pick business because, I mean, I learned all the technical stuff about filmmaking. You know, I made great images and great movies, but at the business side of things, I was terrible starting out. And, you know, if I knew something about business, like that would have helped me a ton more. If you're not too keen on going into higher education, honestly, my recommendation is just get a job. Like any job, doesn't matter, right? Just get a job and just literally earn that dough, just keep saving up. Then you can use your savings to actually buy equipment, you know, go ahead and buy a camera. Don't just buy some cheap camera. You've got the money, you know, if you've got it and you can afford it, go ahead and buy a full frame camera, you know. Go ahead, buy your tripods. Don't buy those cheapy little £10 tripods of Amazon. I'm saying buy a good, decent, heavy duty tripod from Manfrotto, you know, for example. You know, I'm not sponsored by them, but you know, buy yourself some actual decent equipment. You know, go buy yourself some gimbal, go buy yourself some lights, you know, buy yourself some trolleys and dollies and rigs and whatever it is, you know, just go crazy. Buy yourself some mics, you know, that's really important. And, you know, start using that, make some movies. You know, when it comes to networking, again, you don't need film school. There are plenty of events. If you look online, there's stuff happening all the time in major cities where you can literally just apply, some of them for free even. And you can just go there and just network, meet people, you know, exchange details. That's literally how you get work. Look online. There's websites like My First Job in Film, sites like Fiverr and Upwork. I've had some clients from Upwork, you know. It is rare, I'm not gonna lie, it is a lot harder. It's not, you know, easy, but it does happen. I've landed a few. So yeah, I think to sum it up, yeah, I'd just say, yeah, you don't really need film school. It's we 2026, we live in a modern age, you know, everything's online. Like, you know, yeah, it's film school, I think is kind of almost obsolete, you know, because it's whatever they're teaching, you can learn online, and film school isn't exclusive. You know, it's not the only place you can go to network. There's plenty of other places you can do online. So I think, yeah, just to wrap that up, yeah, I don't know how to wrap it up. So I guess, yeah, just follow me on Instagram, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and just leave me any comments, what you think, and yeah, cool. Bye.